Hello my beautiful creatives, and welcome back to my art channel. My name is Chrissie B and I'm a creativity coach hoping to inspire you to live a more creative life every day. So today I thought I would work in my nice fancy journal and do an art journal with me. Now when I say my nice fancy journal, I mean my Strathmore, what is it called? It's my Strathmore Mixed Media art journal. It's 500 series premium. It's my favorite. It's so juicy. It is 90 pounds, 90 pound paper, but the paper is just scrumptious and it lets you really do a lot of stuff to it before it kind of has a freak out. So I love that. I have kind of gotten myself stuck on using my soul book, and a soul book is, if you follow my channel at all, you'll know my soul book is done in cheapy sketchbook, and so the paper is so different and you have to be so much more careful with it. The benefit of using this kind of a journal is that you don't have to be quite as precious with it, meaning you have the ability to really just let your mind wander and play and then kind of see where the layout takes you. So I'm going to do a one-page journal layout, and then after I'm all done I will list all of the supplies that I used over here. So the thing that I kind of had in mind was I wanted to use paper. I found a bunch of my tissue paper in storage this week, which I have not used in forever, and so I really want to just kind of start my background warming up muscles by using some tissue paper with some matte medium to lay it down. And I don't really have a plan other than that, other than I want to use my paper. Let me just pull some out here. And I have this little package of scraps. Let's see what's in this. I have some sewing tissue paper, some napkin backing, some more napkin, that's the front of the napkin, some tissue paper, a scrap of that Post-Style Tim Holtz tissue paper. Yeah, let's use this. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna use that tissue paper, but I'm also gonna intermingle some of my torn book pages, just because I really like the way that that is feeling nowadays. I don't know, it's just such an easy way to get your creativity muscles moving, and literally your arms moving and your wrists moving and your fingers moving. It's just a great way to kind of just warm up. So I'm gonna have a pile of both of those, one on either side of me, and I'm just gonna start laying it down. I don't have a plan, I'm just gonna see what happens. I'm thinking I'm gonna use watercolor over the top as my color, but I might also be tempted to use acrylic. I think it's just gonna depend on how the spread goes. Tear my edges off. I like having torn edges versus cut edges. Okay. I took so long doing that my, there we go. And just kind of lay it down in a way that is pleasing to my eye. Put some of this napkin down. You know, Mama loves her stripes. She loves polka dots and stripes. I'm very geometric. I like those types of motions, and I don't mind wrinkles, although I do like to kind of pull it out a little bit. But if I should wrinkle it as I'm gluing it down, that's fine. I just kind of go with that. No worries. Another piece of paper. Let's do some music sheeting. It is Friday, which I love Friday. I love Friday because it's the day that when my husband gets home, it's the only night of the week that he's not still working when he's home. Which is very, very, very nice. Let's see. No. I don't want it to be lined up with that piece of paper, which is what I'm thinking in my head. This one I do want to lay down a little bit nicer. I'm a musician. And I love music, so I kind of like to let my music sheets lay flat. Let's do some, this is a little piece of sewing pattern. Okay, let's do another book page. This one is cut, all 4 edges are cut, so I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna consider that to be like a sign of some sort. That's what it's supposed to do today. And I'm gonna do that one upside down. I think it adds visual interest when you put your book pages all different directions. Let's do some of this really cool teal chevron watercolor paper. Tear that 4th edge off. And we'll stick it down here to balance the color here over here. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I want to flip that over. I think that it needs more weight down at the bottom to kind of anchor it down, and that's why I like the idea of doing the larger flat end down here. And then I'm just going to go with the wrinkles. I'm okay with that. And let's take some of this paper. Now this paper is the only paper I don't generally tear it completely up because I love these little dots on the end and I like the words at the top, so I generally leave them like they are. Just kind of like scent it a little bit. Okay, and I'm just going to keep going back and forth. Let's tear a piece of this Tim Holtz paper and tear some of this off as well. Just want to give myself a raw edge. And let's stick that at the top here. Not worrying if anything goes off the edge. Just kind of let it happen organically. And whatever happens, happens. And then I just kind of work around whatever that was. I like this paper, so I'm going to do a little more of it. I'm going to put some here. It doesn't completely disappear onto your background, but it does look like I've maybe stamped it, so that's kind of cool. A little more here. It says music sheet. Oh, it's upside down. Okay. Now let's do some dictionary paper. It's kind of already mussed and curled. I wish this tan didn't line up so much with the dictionary paper, but I wasn't paying attention very well. And I do want to bring some more of that grid paper up front, just because it's one of my favorite papers. So I am going to just kind of do 2 things with this. I'm going to bring the paper back on, and I'm going to I'm going to kind of camouflage the fact that this is such a straight line right here by covering part of it. At least that's what I tell myself when I do that. Let's see, here is some of that napkin backing from this blue. So it's got kind of a faint blue on it. I'm not sure if you can see that. I can see that from here, but it might not be picking up on camera. So let me just raw my edges up. And I'm going to lay that down here somewhere. And I'm going to purposefully, since these stripes are going this way, I'm going to purposefully make sure that these shadowy stripes, like the ghosted stripes, go up and down versus side to side. Again, this may not be visible, none of this might be visible when it's all said and done. But that's kind of the thought process I'm going through as I'm looking at it. So let me tip my book up so I can see it from a different perspective. Okay, I think we're getting close. So I have pulled out a few, let me set that down without getting anything. So I've pulled out 3 washi paper tapes, and they are completely black and white, and so I want to take some of that and add it I don't know, I think it will just add another layer of visual interest. Even though these are really nice washi tapes, I am still going to use my matte medium to adhere it down, just because I don't want to have to worry about it. I want to know that it's just going to stay there no matter how many layers I put on top of them. And I generally have a tendency to layer my washi tapes. I just like that. Okay, let's grab another washi tape. Okay, so this is on a paper backing. I think that's so you can color these and then put them down where you want them. Okay, so this is very linear, so I'm going to add some of that over here. And I want them pointing upward. I don't know, to me, having linear things like arrows and like pens and pencils, whatnot, anything that has an actual direction to it, I feel like pointing it upwards makes my spread feel more positive. I think anything with lots of things pointing downward, to me, feels visually depressing. So I have a tendency to point everything upward. Now, this one, because it's a brand new washi tape, is torn a little bit, just because when they package this adhesive, or when they package this washi, they adhere it to itself. And I'm okay with that because I'm using the gel medium. I can flatten all that down. But the magic is going to be seeing if I can get this backing off. There we go. Now, like I said, I like to layer my washi, so I'm going to just kind of, I want to raise it a little bit higher, keeping in mind that I don't want the exact same pencils right next to each other. And then I'm going to very carefully glue that lifted piece down. And now, once that dries, you'll never know that that had ever torn. Plus, it's so cute. Seriously, I love that washi. I have one more of those I'm going to use. Same thing. It's brand new, and so the washi has torn, but this one has like artsy things on it. Art journal, invites, a palette, a watercolor tin. I don't know, I just think this is so blinking cute. And even if I don't ever see it on my art journal itself, like on the art spread, I want to be able to like just know that it's there. And I'm gonna use this haphazard one first. I think the hardest part about these papers is just getting it off the back. Okay, I'm gonna put this one down in this general area somewhere where there's not really, see this area, there's not really a lot of text going on. That's kind of where my brain is saying, yep, that's where it goes. Okay, just kind of flatten that down. Make sure that little flappy bit is all the way down. And then I have two more pieces of that, and I'm just gonna layer it, just like I did the other washis. And kind of jog it over, overlap a little bit, and matte medium it down. I also think doing 3 of these at the bottom of your page kind of gives the bottom of your page a little bit of weight. So it makes it feel like the whole spread, just from the get-go, is kind of grounded. How's that? Cool beans? That makes me happy. Super happy. Now I have this little scrap of music sheet I don't want to put back in my stash, so I'm just going to use it. And I'm going to put it there. It says beginning on it, at least most of the word of beginning, so I like that. How are we? Let me take a peek again. I'm gonna add, I have another one of those fully cut sheets of book page. I'm gonna put some down here. So you just keep doing this until it makes you happy. She was losing her effectiveness. Make sure you read your book pages sometimes. Yeah, I'm gonna put it on there anyways. I remember my very first art girl that I had drawn. I was so proud of her. I just thought, oh my gosh, this is proof that maybe someday I can be an artist, because look at this gorgeous little face that I had created. And I had done a lot of book pages in the background because that's my favorite. I love books, I love paper, I love words. So I was really excited about her, and I took her to work. I had a very non-creative job, and I took her to work and I hung her on my little cubicle wall. And unbeknownst to me, I was sitting there one day and I just kind of looked up and I saw the word gruesome. And I started reading the book page behind this cute, positive message little doll that I had created. And it said something like, it was basically, I think I had pulled it from a murder book or something, and it was describing the scenes of the murder. I was so heartbroken. I was so sad that I hadn't paid attention enough to realize that this positive little message had some bad juju behind it. So I always have a tendency to read my book pages now. I'm just kind of taking a peek at my stash, seeing if there's anything else that I just feel like I need to balance or fill in. Here's a little space right here. I'm gonna just put a little something there. And again, this must be a book on death, because here's Harold's death. So let's flip it over, and I'm gonna turn it right side up because this book page is the same book page paper, and I had that one upside down. So let's put that one straight. And we're gonna just layer a little bit so that no matter what it says on it, you can't read it. And there's a little piece of something there. Let's take that off. Okay. Okay, so that's a pretty good base, I think. I want to let this completely dry. If I'm not sure if it's done or not, or if I'm not really keen on it, the way that I try to figure it out is I look at it from different angles. So I look at it straight on, because you can see it straight on because you're sitting above my head. So I'm looking at it straight on, and then if you're still not sure, take the whole composition and turn it upside down and look at it again. Is there anything missing? Is there something else needing to be added? I did that, I said that. Upside down, to me, the composition is very top heavy because you have all this color and weight up here, and you have a lot of very lightness down here. So I'm going to take some more of that Tim Holtz tissue paper, just because it has a really good mix of words on it. And I'm just gonna add one more piece down here, and I think that should do it. I think it should just make it a little bit darker down here and give it some visual weight. Yeah. So anything else beyond that, we will use paint and dealing with focal images and whatnot. So right now, all I'm gonna do is I'm going to take a break. I'm gonna clean up my workspace so I have room to breathe and create without stress. And I'm gonna wash my paintbrush to make sure that I don't ruin it. And as soon as this is dry, I will be back. Okay, I think I'm ready to get going. I've pulled out an assortment of paintbrushes. I have a I have, I don't know, maybe 15 different paint colors around me. I chose acrylic. I also pulled out a paint palette, which for me is a paper plate, a napkin for wiping my fingers off because I will be doing some finger painting. And I pulled out an assortment of stencils and punchinella. Oh, one last thing. I also pulled out a package of baby wipes to use with my stencils. So, again, really no plan, but I kind of have things I want to play with. So that's kind of how I pick and choose what I'm pulling out and what I'm, you know, basically having at the ready. There's a very good possibility I'm not going to use all of this. I highly doubt I will use all of this. I've also got some white gesso to kind of push layers back if I need to, and I kept out a small bit of papers and tissue papers in case I wanted to pull any of the background forward after we add paint and whatnot. So without further ado, my plan at this point is to just kind of get very loosey-goosey and just Those are bothering me sitting there. Just to be very loosey-goosey and to be very abstract with my art. That's kind of how I work anyways. I love this background. I don't want to mess it too much, but it's the background, so it's going to get messed a lot, so I'm already over that. I also have pulled out quite a few nice bright fluorescent-y colors, which is not something I use a lot of, but they're in my stash, and this is the year of using my stash, use it or lose it. So I am going to kind of play with those. I have a couple of Goldens fluorescent as well. I have fluorescent green, fluorescent magenta, fluorescent red, and fluorescent blue. And fluorescent pink. I have a little tiny sample of fluorescent pink. So I have no idea what we're doing. We're just kind of going to go with it. I'm sure there's going to be a messy phase. Just hang in there with me. Yeah, so I'm going to start with a 1-inch brush. I just like doing that first just to kind of get some water, some color down. And because I have so many options, I'm not really sure where to begin. Let's start by putting some colors down on my little palette here. I think that's a pretty decent start. That's a lot of bright, 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 bright. I'm going to start safely, I think, and I'm going to put a couple of just regular golden, cobalt turquoise, and cerulean blue deep are the two colors that I've chosen, and I think I'll just go ahead and start there. And the idea is to put a couple of drops down, like literally drops, because this paint goes a long, long way. Plus, because we have matte medium over the whole spread, the paint is not going to soak into the background, into the paper. It's going to sit on top of that matte medium, so you just need a touch of paint. And the higher quality paint, the more pigment in the paint, the less you have to use. So I'm going to kind of push the background back a little bit. And this color has never been opened, so let me stop and open that real quick. Again, this is the year of using my stash. If I don't use it, I need to get rid of it. And some of this stuff just makes me happy just seeing it. So the idea of getting rid of it without using it makes me so, so sad. So this is the year of using it or losing it. So using it is. Okay, so this is cerulean blue deep. And again, just do a couple of dots. And my rationale where to put my dots is essentially I'm just trying to basically be very fair to the page. I'm trying to balance. If I put a dot here, I want a dot over here. If I put a dot here, I want a dot here. I'm also keeping in mind where is the white spaces. I don't want to hide all the white spaces necessarily, but that's kind of where I want my color to start, because I don't mind the colors mixing together, but I want them to start out their true color. And if you let them start on a section that is white, then it will look truer ultimately. I'm going to add some Indian yellow hue, not because I know what that color looks like, but because I think it'll be fun. So, and I'm going to use my finger. Just kind of give that a little smear around. Okay. And float it over. I love the different layers of paper because it catches on there. I'm going to do it over here as well. Using my finger. Just kind of get in there. Just kind of blend it out. I find that if I start to get nervous or start to second guess myself, I will pep talk myself. Keep going, it's okay, keep going. If I want the paint to smush along a little further, I will dip my finger in water and like help it smush a little further. That works while the paint is still wet. That will not work when the paint is dry. Now what? Now what? Okay, so one of my issues that I'm going to have today is overthinking. Not sure why, but I know it's about myself. So I'm going to take this blue just to kind of see what it's going to look like. And I like how it turned into a gorgeous green as soon as it hit that gold. Okay, just put it down and smush it around without any real reason. My absolute favorite way of arting is to do this and basically put some music on and get quiet and just kind of get into my head a little bit and just make a mess. And I don't mind saying make a mess, because that's kind of what you're doing, but you're making a mess on purpose. And I love that. So there are those. I'm gonna not wash my brush, because I'm just gonna leave it that way. I'm gonna grab a small palette knife, and I want to take some gesso, and this is the Art Basics Heavy Gesso. I want to just take some and kind of scrape it on with a small palette knife. Now it's not going to be too dramatic, but it will push some of this background back and give me the ability to layer more. Plus it gives you a nice texture. Today I'm choosing to do my palette knife up and down. You can go as fast or as slow as you want to do this. This is totally up to you. You can add as much gesso as you want. You can, if you've added too much gesso, you could take a baby wipe and wipe it away. Just know that if your colored layers are still wet, it will take some of your color off as well. If you let your acrylic color dry completely before you do this step, then it will not take any of the color away. It will just take the gesso away. So that's kind of cool. Good to know. I've saved my hiney many occasions by letting my layers dry in between, because I can put a new layer down on something I'm thinking, oh, my page is gorgeous, I'm loving it, and then do something to it and absolutely hate it. And if I turn around really quick and grab a baby wipe and just kind of carefully wipe it off, it will wipe off whatever layer I just added while leaving the layers underneath undisturbed. So I'm a big fan of really letting your layers dry. That's not quite as easy to do here in the trailer because I don't have the ability to use a power dryer in here, a heat tool in here, because electricity, because a trailer is not wired like a house is. And you can technically use a heat tool in the trailer, but it makes all the lights flicker, and if you use it too long, or if another electronic thing turns on, it can pop your circuit. That's kind of a pain. So I'm just going to let that dry. It's really thin. It's a very thin layer, and I like the way that it has kind of picked up some of my paper edges and just basically made them more texture. It just adds another layer of texture to your spread. I'm going to wipe my palette knife off with my dry paper towel just to make sure that it doesn't get damaged. If you leave it on there, it will ruin your brush or your palette knife. It just makes it very difficult to use. You have to scrape like crazy to get it off, and if you leave it too long, sometimes it will cause your palette knife to rust, which is no bueno. That is depressing. So I'm going to put my brush down for a minute. I'm actually going to drop it in water just to make sure I don't let that blue completely dry in there. I'm going to grab some pink on my finger, and I'm going to, while the gesso's still wet, I'm just going to do some dots with my finger. Again, not really having a plan, just wanting to play and see what these colors will do together. If I find that I have a dot that has too much color, I'll dot my finger in it again. I like the little bit of texture that happens. Although in my head, I'm also trying to keep in mind that if I leave too much paint on my little fingerprint, it's going to take that much longer for it to dry. So it could look gorgeous, but if it's going to take too long to dry, that'll drive me bananas. But I do like doing these a lot. You probably noticed. I like the way that the center is really pink, but the kind of edge has a tendency to kind of float away, and it becomes more translucent, and you can see the color variation as it's mixing with the colors underneath. So pretty. Love that a lot. Okay. And again, a sense of balance. I have some over here. I want to put some up over here. Just that's how my brain works. That's my version of fairness, I guess. I love these colors together. I honestly had no idea if I would or how they would look. I don't know. I love bright colors. I love vivid, yummy texture. Just makes me so blinking happy. And the fact that you can do this with such simple tools, like namely your finger, because what have I used so far? a brush to adhere the gel medium. That dot is completely out of control. Maybe I can show you my baby wipe method here. Oops, got another little spastic dot. Come on, dots, get your mojo back together. That happens when you change the angle of your finger. I'm gonna grab a baby wipe. I'm gonna wipe my finger off just a minute. And all I wanna do is wipe that one dot off. So all you do is take your baby wipe, I wrap it around my finger, so it just basically holds it so it's out of the way, and just wipe that one dot off. Okay? And there you go. You basically have just erased a problem, or erased something that you didn't maybe necessarily like. I'm gonna set this baby wipe aside in case I need to use it again. It is still good until it dries, and even that, sometimes, depending on how you've used it, you can use it again just by getting it wet again. And I don't really, like in my head I just said, where are you going with this? I don't know. Keep going. I think it's so cool. Okay, now that I've got these kind of dots going, I might grab another color. Let me just make sure I'm happy with my dottage. Do another one here. And let's do one like it's coming off the page over there. Okay. Wipe my finger off just because I don't want to get paint accidentally anywhere I don't want it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to choose another paintbrush probably. And I think I'm going to use... I'm looking at my paintbrush differently. I want to make marks. And I'm trying to figure out if I were to use this paintbrush, what marks could I make? Now I could, if I hold my paintbrush straight up and down, I can make kind of a messy rectangle. That could be cool. If I hold my paintbrush flat, I can make a square depending on how much of the paintbrush I actually push down to the paper. If I hold it higher, I can make more of a rectangle shape. So if I choose one of my little round brushes, I can do a different kind of brush stroke. I like using this one and this one for making kind of a raindroppy kind of, you know, that's how I make my Fred Flintstone pattern. I am going to try my hand at the straight up and downy, whoops, the straight up and downy marks, and let's see what that's gonna look like. Do I want to use a fluorescent or do I want to use more of a color? I have Payne's Gray here. I'm gonna put some of that down on my palette. That seems very thin. It's been sitting in a box for about, I don't know, 4 months, 5 months. Oh yeah, so I've added a little more of the Payne's Gray to my paper plate because the Payne's Gray needed to be shook. It had been sitting a little bit too long. So I'm loading up my paintbrush just by tapping it in, and I'm gonna tap off some of the excess on my paper plate. Hopefully that will help me. I wanna know what design it's gonna make. Just tap on the paper plate and you can see it. So I'm going to do that, and I want my designs to go up and down. So I'm going to just start, I don't know where, I don't want to start at an edge, and just kind of make my little marks. So I like to let my tools do a lot of the work for me. I just have to pick, what I need to do is pick the tool I'm using and the effect I want it to give me. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But again, the cool thing about this is that you can just either baby wipe something off, or you can cover it up with some more acrylic, because acrylic is just colored white out. What I'm doing is I'm just dabbing in some of the little marks that have a lot of paint on them, taking some of that paint and spreading it out a little bit, because I like the Payne's Gray, this Payne's Gray, as it kind of floats away. And then a little bit more over here just to kind of like pepper it around a little bit. Like so. Oops, don't push too hard. I don't have any problems with going over those little pink dots. Kind of just embedding them all together. Now I'm trying to decide, do I want to put a focal image down? And if I do, I'm gonna have to go into my stash and find a focal image. I also need to be mentally thinking about what my sentiment for my art spread's going to be and how I'm going to put that down. I think because I have recently rediscovered my art stamps, my letter stamps that I had packed in storage, and I brought those to the trailer this week. I'm thinking I'm going to do it with stamps because I've missed them and they're my little babies and they're so much fun to play with. Let's see, how's that look? They're kind of random blobby, which I like random blobby. That's kind of the look I'm going for. Okay. Dropping my brush into water, let that dry. Now what am I gonna do? I want to take some white, which I don't even have white out. So let me grab white, and I'm gonna use my Golden's Heavy Body acrylic. And this is titanium white, and just put some on my palette here. Now I know there's a lot of paint on my palette, and I'm okay with that. I will just have to use some of it on some of my other things I do today. Don't know what that's gonna be. I really never know what it's gonna be. And I'm gonna take my littlest round brush, and I'm going to take my white, and I'm going to make some little dots. And I want them to kind of just be in different places. Today, I think it's all about making marks. I'm gonna stay away from these pink just because they're kind of blobby today. But I wanna keep making sure that I'm holding my brush straight up in the air. So I'm gonna get the marks I'm wanting. If I want more of a raindrop or a diamond shape, I would hold my brush flatter or push a little bit harder. Oops, kind of got a little crazy there with that mark. That mark went rogue. Okay, let's put some over here. Let's kind of put them in the mix. See, it's kind of a blobby, splotchy kind of polka dots, which is cool. When your splotches, when you have to start pushing harder and harder to get the paint down, that means you're probably running out of paint on your brush. Load your brush again. And the way that I'm loading this particular brush is I am dipping it into the big blob of paint and then kind of tapping it out next to the blob of paint just to take some of the excess paint off. Do some in this corner up here. Even though it's pretty light, you may not see them very well. I will see them. That's what matters. When you art journal, you're art journaling for yourself. And the cool thing about art journaling is that if you find that you've done something you really like, you've basically, you've made a rough draft of something that you can then do again on maybe an art canvas. When I find I'm losing my point, I will just take my brush and actually just kind of swirl it flat again. And kind of bring it back to a point. And then start again. Another thing I'm doing, I forget, sometimes I've done this for so long that I don't think about what I'm doing. So when I'm trying to tell someone else, I don't remember. But because I don't want all of my little dots to look the same, I have a tendency to twirl my brush in my fingers as I'm doing it. So that way you see different marks every time. The little splat mark is in a different way, just a little bit. Changes the brush a little bit. Trying to think, am I done? Do I want to do more of that? I want to put a little bit of polka dot over here because they're small and they're not very invasive. at this point, I'm thinking I'm going to stop shortly and let this completely dry. If you have a heat tool, go ahead and dry it with your heat tool if you'd like. I'm kind of enjoying the process of letting them dry naturally. Kind of makes you, I don't know, it kind of prolongs, for me it prolongs the introversion time hanging out in your head and thinking about different thoughts. And I don't think I'm thinking about anything other than the paint today. But when I turn the camera off to let this dry, maybe I'll ponder life a little bit and see if I can come up with something to put on my, if I can hear a message and put it on my art journal page. Okay. So there we go, I think. Yeah. And again, if there's any part of this that I end up not liking, we can always cover it, no bigs. But yeah, I'm gonna let that dry and I will be back. Okay, so this is where I lose my ever-loving mind a little bit. And because I love it, I love it, but I want to kind of challenge myself, so I want to take some of my papers and cover some of it. How's that for crazy? Is that a little insane? Let's take some music sheet. And I don't want to cover all of it, but I do want to, like, I don't know, cover up some of the stuff I've done and see if I can produce anything else. I'm going to put this right here. Okay. And then I'm going to take some of this sheeting, which, oops, I love so much, almost dropped it. Caught it, but almost dropped it. Tear my little edges off, not worrying about the fact that you will not see the words. Some of my pink is still a little wet, I see. I'm okay with that. I'm gonna let that just happen. You'll see that in my gel medium there. And then I'm gonna take some of my sewing paper. I think this probably all ended up in the package because it's the part where it doesn't have any of the lines or whatnot, which is what kind of makes sewing pattern paper really cool. Let's see. If I can't smooth it, we'll just flatten it down. No bigs, no bigs. I'm gonna bring some of that teal back in. Here. Let's give myself a raw edge to work with. And then put that here. Whoopsie. Let's try that again. You don't want to adhere it down before you start mushing it around with your brush. Okay. Take some more of that Tim Holtz tissue paper. And I'm going to put some of that up here sideways because I can. Okay. Nothing too terribly scary, I don't think. I just kind of want to push some things back. Oops. Take some, maybe it's Bible pages, and put that here. Anything else? Maybe some of that leftover napkin backing, because I think this is the last of it. I like using napkins, but they're really expensive. I don't understand why napkins are so expensive. Anyways, first world problems. Let's go ahead and adhere that down here. Cover some of this. And then I'm gonna put you sideways. And we'll take that other piece of Bible page and we'll put it down here as well. Just kind of like piggyback them all. And then what I will do, ooh, I forgot to get myself some more water. I'll have to go pause and go do that. Oops. That little pink dot is getting completely eliminated. Actually, no, I don't want that. I will take a little more music page though. I want to cover that dot. Actually, you know what? No, I don't. I will tear it for next time though. Okay, so let me pause really quick. I'm gonna go get some water and I'll be right back. So I went and got myself some water. I cleaned up just a little bit so I have a little bit of breathing room. I'm gonna take my white gesso again with my same palette knife and I'm gonna scrape some, not everywhere, but I'm gonna scrape some gesso on my little spread, kind of white some things out, apparently make a little bit of a mess. That's okay. Had some issues with that pink dot there. Just gonna show who's boss. That would be me, if in case anyone was unsure. I don't always know that it's me. It's me. Okay, I'm just gonna scrape it on. Just basically pushing things back and giving you something else to see. Okay, push back, push back, push back, push back. And the cool thing about doing that is that it gives me the ability to paint some more. Like I don't have to be done quite yet. I'm just gonna scrape that, wipe that, because it's not gonna cooperate and I am tired of fighting with it. So I'm just gonna put this back down. Okay. I should let this dry. Do I want to? Probably not. The world's most impatient artist. I just want everything to be like instantaneous. So take my baby wipe that I kind of got sitting over there and wipe that off. Close my gesso, put that away. Now, what am I gonna do? First, gut tells me to let it dry. And because I'm all about letting my gut tell me, I'm gonna smooth some of these things out because they're kind of lumpy, bumpy, which is fine, but for the sake of getting things to dry a little bit faster, let's kind of give them a little bit of a zhuzh with our fingers. And then I'm gonna let that dry, which means it is time for another break for me and for you. We'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so that has mostly dried. If you've noticed in my life, mostly dried is kind of dried for me. I'm gonna add a little bit more color. I'm gonna use the Cerulean Blue Deep. Originally I used Cerulean Blue Deep and the Cobalt Turquoise, but if you look around my spread, there's a lot of turquoise kind of showing, and I wanna bring some of that Cerulean Blue Deep back in. And I'm gonna kind of do this quick. I'm gonna add just a wash. And because remember, everything's covered with either, now it's covered with either gel medium or matte medium or gesso, I can now do my watercolor, or I want to take a stencil and a baby wipe, and I want to kind of take some of that color up, and I want to use, what do I want to use? I'm going to use these little bricks. Okay. See if I can just get some of that up. I'll go all the way down to the big bricks and pick that up. And I'd like to grab a few more bricks. Okay, like so. And come over here and do the same thing. Start near the top. Try to just get bricks. And just lift that color up. Leaves the bricks behind. It's kind of cool that way. I do want to get a little bit more of the bricks here. See if I can grab a little bit of that. I also want to grab a little bit more up here. I don't mind the blue being there, but I want it to do something. I don't want to just sit there, kind of boring. Then I will take my baby wipe and clean my stencil real quick so it stays nice and delicious. The clean, I don't know. There's some people who love leaving their stencils dirty. To me, they're an investment. The more acrylic you let dry on them, the less true the shape is. That makes me kind of sad because I bought them because I like the shape. I'm going to take a piece of deli paper. I can pull one out here. And because I'm impatient and because I don't want to wait for that to dry, I'm going to just lay this down on top and kind of pick up any wet so that my bricks still stay there, but it's not quite as damp as it was just a second ago. I'm also going to come back in with this Indian yellow hue, which is this gold color around the outside edge, and I want to bring some of that into the center. So it feels a little more purposeful. And again, because it's goldens, I'm just going to use a dot. And I'm not going to worry if I go over my little bricks that I just put down. That is totally fine. Actually, I like it because then it kind of integrates everything in together. So I'm going to take these little chevrons. No, what are those called? Hexagons. And I'm going to just pick up the color. Now, because I didn't wash my brush, the gold did mix a little bit. I'm not too worried about that. If you've noticed, I don't really worry about too much in my art stuff. I just kind of let it happen. And just kind of just go with it. See what other challenges I can come up with. Now I'm going to clean my stencil with my baby wipe. Same baby wipe I've been using. Okay. Set that aside. And I'm going to blot again with my deli paper because I have no patience. Okay, so I will save that deli paper and I can keep adding stuff to it and we can make it awesome. So I think that's enough color. I think I like that a lot. The other thing I really want to do is I want to play. Now, over here, let me put my brush in water so my paint doesn't dry. I have pulled out some doodling utensils. And some of them are mine usual, and then I grabbed a couple extra. So on my white broad signo pen, always use that. Construction pencil, which is a fat pencil. You can either use a construction pencil or you can even use a kindergarten pencil. They're both fat. They give you a nice fat lead, a soft fat lead. A regular number 2 pencil. A black Stabilo all pencil. I pulled out the Jelly Roll pink. And I can't remember, does this have an actual number? Number 420, and it's the Moon Glow one, I think is what they're called. And then I also grabbed out a Super Stick X Big, which is kind of a waxy, kind of a colored pencil, but I really like it because I like the colors that we've got going on. And I'm going to start with that big waxy. Now, I have really no circles to speak of except for my little finger dots, which is fine. But also my page is still a little bit wet, so I'm going to start with the waxy one because it won't damage the waxy one at all. But I want to do a couple of circles because that's kind of what I do. I just want to start with one circle, and then I kind of want to just feel what myself wants to do from there. So I'm going to put like these weird little, let me zoom you down so you can see what I'm doing. These weird little, you know, shapes. And because it's waxy, you can do quite a few strokes on it. And it's subtle, but I love the contrast between this and the olivey green that was created when the cerulean blue hue and the Indian yellow hue mixed together. So I'm gonna go with that. Just kind of do that around my entire circle that I created. Okay. Now, I'm also thinking about putting a focal image on here. I don't normally do that. I generally leave my abstract. I have no problems leaving it that way. I can just get some white hues on there, some white marks. Yeah, so I'm gonna use focal image today. I think I've discovered one that I want to use. Kind of get that a little swirly, pinwheely kind of mess there. This is all about playing, and again, the best way to do this, in my opinion, is to turn some music on and just get in your head and just listen to whatever pops up. And whatever it is, just acknowledge whatever popped up into your head, and just thank it for showing up, and then ask it questions. Should I be listening to you? What do you want? What are you trying to teach me? What message are you trying to tell me? And then as you're doing that, that's how I find my journaling prompts. Because those things magically just kind of come out of you. So I'm going to move in a different area. And let's see, I always kind of do a messy, you know, a messy hash mark kind of thing, like so. Still like to do that a lot. Just to kind of grunge up the page a little bit. Okay. I'm going to take my pencil, my regular pencil, and just encapsulate some of these circles. Not because there's any like design element to it, just because it's just about playing. You want to keep these nice and loose. The higher you hold your pencil, the looser that will be. So I really like that. For me, it's very calming to do that. I'm going to take my little pink pen, which I have never actually used, which is kind of surprising because I just opened it and the tip is all used. So I'm just going to take my little top, my little pink pen, and I want to do some X's, some little pink X's. I think it just kind of accentuates these little pink dots that are kind of everywhere. It's subtle, but I think it's sweet. I'm trying to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. It's not always easy. By the way, in case anyone is curious, this is my very first Patreon video. I've never done a Patreon video before. I'm not even technically sure how to post it yet. It's a little bit scary. I'm a little bit freaked out about that, but we will figure it out just like everything else in life. We just figure it out. Or as Marie Forleo likes to say, everything is figure-outable. Yes, yes, yes. So let's do some more of these little polka dots down here. Got a rogue pencil going there. Let's get that out of my way. And I'm going to do some X's down here. Just to kind of sprinkle that element around. Remember, I have this weird thing about fairness. I want everything to be fair. Let's go back to this little guy. And I don't know why, but I just want to have some kindergarten marks. I love kindergarten marks. They just make me happy. And this pen doesn't like being used over wet medium, so I just kind of clean it off and keep going. And then I don't worry too much, because it doesn't matter what it ends up looking like necessarily. It matters that you did it. Apparently that is enough of that. Let's see, what else do I want to do? I have my Stabilo out. Do I want to Stabilo my paper edge? Maybe. Yeah, let's do that. I think we're getting close to finishing up here. Let's just take my Stabilo and rub it along the edge of the paper. Just kind of grunge it in. Kind of frames your art journal spread. Okay. Like so. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I also want it down in this place here, although this is going to be a little trickier to smudge. But we will do it. Okay. Let me see. I would normally use my finger for the whole thing, but I'm going to take a water brush just to get this edge here. Just kind of activate that and let it kind of smudge out. Okay. And you know what? Because I did it already, I'm going to just keep going. I will, however, come back in with my finger and just kind of blend. That way it's dry immediately. That's my thinking anyways. Do the same thing. Get the whole thing wet. Take my finger and smudge. Okay. Love how that just automatically just grunges it up for you. Nice. And last side. Get it wet and then grunge it up. Kind of smoosh it around. You can even pull the color in to the page a little bit. Like, I'm not sure I like that it's such a harsh line there. So just kind of take your water brush, touch the stabilo and pull the color in like that. Okay, let's do a little bit over here because we did it above. I think we're getting close to being done. I really want to do my image, however. Let's kind of pull this in. Let that kind of do its thing. Now, the two images that I have chosen as possible candidates for this art journal page is this lady, which I would fussy cut out, only because she looks like she's having a fun time, and I kind of like the green. And it was this green that kind of gave me that idea. There's some green kind of up theirs as well. I really enjoy this little image as well, and I would probably put it there is what I'm kind of thinking. But I don't know if she these three ladies, although they're adorable and I love their colors, I love their hat, I love everything about them, I have a feeling they're going to get lost a little bit. So those are my two options. Let me fussy cut this lady out and then I could do a side-by-side comparison. Okay, so now that I've cut her out, she would sit down on the bottom because her foot is cut off and she has got a stool that she's sitting on that is also cut off. So I want to kind of ground her to the bottom of the page. So that is one look. And then these ladies would be another, which I think they're cute, but I think I'm gonna go with this woman because, and my rationale is because she's deeper in color, so she stands out a little bit better. Plus it gives me the ability to journal around her because now I have this natural place to journal. So let me grab a glue stick and a glue pad, which I know I've gone here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Which I guess is a little weird after using gel medium all day, but it's okay. I'm gonna just glue her down, make sure she's really well stuck down all edges. Oops, I just bent her a little bit. That's okay. Just kind of get her put in place. I'm all about, you'll notice if you watch my videos, if I use focal images, a lot of times will use women. I like using women who look happy, they look maybe, I don't know, like they're living a good life, or they are people who would empower other people, or they're creative, or they're living their truth, or there's something about them that kind of resonates that kind of energy. And I love that. There's a part of me that's really thinking I want to use my pink pen to do my journaling. I just don't know if it's going to work. Okay, we're gonna take the leap of faith. Let's take the leap of faith. I'm still gonna add like words so you can see like some kind of a thought, but I'm gonna get quiet for a minute and I'm just going to journal my thoughts out, just following the outline of this magazine image. Okay, so I think that wrote around there rather all right. Note to self, when you grab a piece of paper to cover the wet ink so you can rest your arm to keep writing, don't use your glue pad. It is covered in glue. Now I'm all sticky, just in case you were curious. Anyways, so the next thing and last thing I want to do is I want to take a piece of watercolor paper, which I have right here. And on watercolor paper, cold press watercolor paper, there's going to be a rough side and a smooth side. I'm going to choose the rough side. I'm also going to select a stamp set, a letter stamp set, because I want to stamp some kind of a sentiment on here. Okay, so I'm gonna move my art journal aside for just a moment. I don't want to damage that while that ink is drying. Let that dry. I'm gonna grab a ink pad. Now, I usually do everything in black or brown. I might do it in manganese blue today because of the color of the spread. And the stamp set I'm gonna use is Hero Arts. It's called Decorated Letter Stamps. And I think that is the name of the pattern, is the Decorated Letter Stamps. Yeah, I've had these forever. These are just, I just try really hard to take good care of them and keep them all clean and working. And I want to say, my sentiment I want to say is do hard things. Again, it's all caps, so it's very shouty. That's okay. Do hard things. And it doesn't have to be, well, you'll see. Okay, so I'm going to take a moment and cut those out. So I've kind of put things away a little bit. I've cut my words out. Do the hard things. I had do hard things stamped out, and then I decided I really need the word the because it was bugging me that it wasn't there. So do the hard things, I think is how I want that to go. I'll just trim this one a little bit. A little too much white space in front of the D for my liking. So I'm gonna take my Aliens tacky glue, which remember I keep stored upside down so it's always ready. When I'm ready to use it, it's ready to go. I'm looking at my pink journaling and I wish I would have done it in white now. I'm gonna let it go. I'm not gonna stress about it too much, but I see that there's so much pink going on that the journaling doesn't stand out at all. So note to self, next time you do that, make sure you journal in white or in a color that kind of stands out on its own. And I'm gonna use my tacky glue because this is such heavy body watercolor paper. I'm gonna use my Aliens tacky glue to tack those in place. And because these are so stark white, I like that the letters are kind of, you know, varied in saturation. Some are lighter than others. Kind of goes with my messy, haphazardly, kind of grungy look. So that makes me happy. And I actually am really happy that I chose her. Oops, I dropped my word. I'm really glad I chose this image. I wasn't sure. The other one with the three women was just so sweet. But I want to make sure that when I put them on, when I finally do choose where they go, like what page they get to live on, I want them to be able to stand out. I don't want them to, like, that adorable picture to go all mousy behind the scenes. That would make me sad. Kind of just make sure they're not, oops, lined up too much. Kind of squish it where I want it, make sure it's pushed down. Oopsie, I'm using a dirty finger to touch that, so now it's gonna be dirty. It's all right too. Okay, let me cap that and put that away. I'm gonna grab a black doodling pen out real quick because I want to messy frame those letters, the words, not the letters. There we go, I think that's a little bit straighter. And then kind of just do some scribbly, whoops. Try not to move them, but do some scribbly marks around. I even like to do on my outside corners, not always, but most corners, I like to just do kind of an extra scribble there. Just to kind of reinforce the fact that somebody looking at my page could say, oh, it's so scribbly. And you're like, oh, but look, she must have done it on purpose because her whole thing's kind of scribbly. Not everyone will get that. Every corner will get that. I just kind of pick and choose what I want. Just kind of be really nice and messy about it. This is another one of those pens that just writes nicer if everything is nice and dry underneath. I don't always let that happen because I'm not that patient. Thankfully, I don't kill too many pens, however. Thankfully, it's scribbly there. Do the hard things. Last but not least, I'm gonna grab my date stamp, and today is Friday, April 6th. So I'm gonna use My black stays on for this. And let's give it a little stamp in the lower right hand corner here, so that we know which day we played on. So there you have it. That is my finished art journal page for the day. I hope that you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, don't forget to let me know down in the comment section down below. And I appreciate you stopping by my channel. Thanks so much, and until next time, bye for now.